choice. So many whispers in my ear that I can't hear my voice.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Lootbros, the long-time hosts. They're on sabbatical. They're on a rest this week. We know Daryl's off having a wonderful holiday with his family, a well-deserved holiday. Joe is on his 2-week turnaround. Kalai, look, I don't know what Kalai's doing. She looks like she's having a wonderful time out with her husband, doing dinners, doing shows, living the post-COVID life in America, which looks awesome. Zach, my thoughts go out to you. I understand you might be a little bit sick at the moment, so I'm hoping you're pulling through there, buddy. And Tanner, I'm sure you're on Destiny too. Look, I hope you're making progress, but we both know you are probably not. But look, you're still loving it, I'm sure, sir. Of course, as you know, the Loot Bros have a ton of shows. You've got your 2236, you've got your recent Driftcast they put out the other week talking all about the Nintendo showcase, I suppose it was. Their Comic Cast, I believe, is making a comeback, and they've recently dumped a whole lot of new content on the Patreon, which you can be part of for as little as $1. That's right, I'm sheckling myself here. $1, that's all it costs to hear their latest their special Loot Bros episode, where they actually do a deep dive into Kalai, her history, how she got into gaming, and all that sort of stuff. And I know that's a new series they're going to partake in with each of the main hosts there. So that's something to look forward to if you want to support them. Every dollar matters. Of course, they have all the tiers and stuff. You can dive into that. Their deep dive one for this month, I believe, or currently up there, is the 12 minutes, which I think they've talked a little about on the show as well. It's available for free on Game Pass. We might even get into that a little today with one of our guests. But look, that's the end of the spiel. So let me introduce them. It is my pleasure to bring on today two friends that I've met through podcasting. One more recently, well, I don't know, it's probably going on almost a year now. One more recently, the other I've known for some time. Both on the Xbox side, but at least one of them has some history with the PlayStation as well. I'm going to get out of the way and introduce. First off, we have the number one ranked gamer score holder, the soon to be number one in the Oceanic, I believe, as well. Mephisto4thewin. How are you today, sir?
I'm very well, CJ. Thank you for having me on.
and our other guest, returning guest, and good friend as well. I message this dude almost every day, so he's probably ready to neck himself with my bullshit or whatever else. He's a highly skilled gamer. He's really dragging his feet today with us lowly skilled Ratalaika spammers. It is the wonderful Sultan of Simulation, currently ranked somewhere around the 1500 mark in the US. I'm going to take a stab at on the PlayStation. God knows where on the Xbox. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing simply lovely now that, Bo Jiden's in office, knocked that COVID out. I'm staying in tonight with you guys instead of living that post-COVID life. So, yeah, this better be worthwhile.
We're going to steer clear of politics because you wouldn't know this, but this state here at the moment is going through some fantastic times. Our premier resigning only yesterday, a couple others following her out the door, and all sorts of allegations with corruption are flying around. So not only are we fucked with COVID, but we're also politically in distress. It must be amusing for you, Meth, to be watching this from afar.
Did she resign or was she kicked? No, it's hilarious, actually. It's hilarious.
I think she resigned as the boot was coming up her ass. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure at all. But look, why don't we? This is something they do on the show. I didn't warn you both, so you don't have to participate. But they do like a toast at the beginning of every episode to something that's important, something random. So today I'd like to toast the hosts, the regular hosts, Kalai, Daryl, Joe, Tanner, and Zach. I hope I didn't forget anyone there for having a break, but also for letting me take over the show completely. Because I don't know if I would have done this, Memph and Styling, on my end, but they've been very trusting or whatever. And I know this is a little bit of a pony leaning podcast, so it's great that they've trusted us to totally derail it on the Xbox side. With that in mind, Styling, I want to start with you. You've moved over to the Xbox almost exclusively, I think it's fair to say. How are you enjoying the experience?
Yeah, I'm liking it pretty good so far. Albeit it is only on like one of the first generation Xbox Ones, so it is pretty weak, and it is noticeable on some of the games. But I mean, with Game Pass, you just can't go wrong with it. So it's been I've been on it for about 3 months now, actually, and pretty much enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, it's okay. The time goes so quickly. I knew it's been a while. Are you playing any PlayStation now, or is it just Xbox?
Yeah, I'm only hopping on the PlayStation to do a couple of the new Ratalaika games because they're the only developer, or well, publisher, I should say, that's putting out any quality over on PlayStation. So I've been doing a couple of their games, and yeah, they're actually pretty good, most of them.
Yeah, yeah. You're in good company here. I mean,
Mm.
we are we're very well acquainted with the repertoire they have to offer. Now, man, if I made a joke at the start here about the future number one, who would have thought? I love to see this degeneracy. Neo Master, of course, the current number one in New Zealand, which is impressive because God knows they're up against it over there most of the time. Anyway, he is the current number one in the Oceanic, and he was flailing. He really has been flailing for a long time. He wouldn't buy games. He got into that mentality of fuck you all. I'm a real gamer. I'm a real gamer, or whatever else. Wouldn't touch the garbage. And then last month, just an explosion. An absolute explosion. Look, I love to see a man bust his load, and that's what
Mm.
happened there. Clearly, what did you expect it, and do you find it amusing or not?
I I do find it hilarious, first of all, because as you said, it was always, I'm just going to up my completion percentage. I'm only playing good games now, and then one little overtake goal on on the websites, and bang, he's like, nah, stuff all that. I'm smashing everything I haven't played, and really, what else can you expect from a Kiwi? What else can you expect? Going back on their word, just it's yeah. I was already a long way behind, and now it's probably a year till I'll pass him. But we have actually been messaging a little bit, which is funny because we haven't really had much contact before, and he seems to think he's running out of games, but I think he's trying to just get me to calm down a little bit. But I'm just going about things at my pace, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. And just for some context for the listeners that may not know, Neo Mastery, of course, hosts
Mhm.
the Hall of Gamers podcast, formerly RGS or Real Gamer Score, with Shadowless Edge Cameron, who has been a guest on the Loot Bros in the past. Now, you were like within 60,000 of him
Yeah,
before this, or?
yeah. I think it was about somewhere to 60 to 70,000 gamer score away when I set the goal, and yeah, I haven't looked, but I think it's about 120 now, 110, somewhere around there. So and I haven't been not scoring, so he's really put the hammer down.
Now, I want to bring you in here, Styling, because this is another profile you might like to stalk for quick games. But maybe you can tell us a little bit because you're doing what I love to do. You're in preparation for a distant competition or whatever else. I want to hear about how this is going, this game acquisition. And I know it'll interest Meph because we've just done a similar thing a few weeks ago, and then we'll get into that as well. But do you want to let us in on a little bit there, Styling?
Yeah, I'm currently just stockpiling the easiest, quickest dog shit games I can find on the Xbox. I've probably got about 30 of them so far and only spent maybe like 85 or $90, and it equates to, I believe, 42,200 gamer score.
Mm.
So it's getting to be a decent pile. I don't have really any Zidalons yet. I think only the Castle and No Escape games. They're the only zits that I have so far. But my aim is to try to have, I would say, 275 to 300,000 gamer score to knock out during a gamer score league. It's an event that goes on for a month, and you just try to rack
Yeah,
up the most gamer score possible. So
yeah,
it's going good so far, but still a ways off my goal of spam that I want to acquire. But it will be an
Yeah.
almighty explosion when I do that. You best believe that.
Now, like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I would have thought that's a lofty goal. I did this similar thing you're talking about here, this Gamerscore League on Xbox Achievements, I think is correct. The other last year or this year, perhaps earlier this
It
year with
was
the
this
the
year.
what? Yeah, God, time flies with the wonderful Aerith, or Aerith, I believe now. Styling is her name on
Indeed, it has
PlayStation.
changed.
Is that what is the significance of the AY? Am I missing something there, or is it just
Uh,
something?
the first thing I thought of is just you hop in a chat or whatever, and you're like, "Hey!" But I highly doubt that's the
Ah.
reason she's changed it. I haven't asked, to be honest.
I'm gonna ask her at some point. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. Like we're derailing here slightly, but I haven't reached out to her since that competition because she's probably still a bit shitty that I spent most of the time
Ooh,
playing Judgment 7 instead. Oh, sorry, Yakuza
Yakuza.
7 instead of instead they're all the same. Instead of hunting like a maniac all the time, and although I did finish it in that month, so there's no reason why you can't as well. While you're doing that. But I reached out to her the other day because Far Cry 6 is coming out next week or whatever, and she's a major completionist like yourself. And I looked through her profile, and she's doing every single Far Cry game over the space of I think it's like 2 weeks or something, and which is
Yeah.
impressive, and
Mhm.
DLC and whatever else. So it's wonderful to see that she's she's playing some decent stuff as well there, Styling.
Yeah, and the servers were down when she was on Far Cry 5, so I got a message just like, what the hell, 12 hours after I start this fucking game, I can't do the multiplayer when you go to boost. But yeah, I called into Ubisoft, had them sorted out, so she's pretty much done with that game now. I think probably like New Game Plus or whatever on hardcore mode or whatever the hell it is, and
Yeah,
that'll probably be
yeah.
tidied up.
Yeah, excellent. And of course, I'll bring that up because that will most likely be your partner in crime, I imagine, in this event.
Yeah, it will be. Yep. So
Mm.
we should be able to rack up a good score. We'll have to maybe work on
Yeah,
the name though. I don't know if I want it to be called the final boss because that just implies you're gonna lose in one way or another because you can always choose a final boss, no matter what the game is.
it's true. That is true. And if old Necro showed us anything, he'll shit over my dreams without a problem, as he did there. And as again, ironically, I'm putting it out there. Nobody should ever team up with me because I always go in. We look like we're really solid, only to get absolutely fucking bent over within the first 24 hours of the competition. And that happened obviously here. Obviously, 200,000 to 300,000 Mev would have been impressive in a month-long competition until we ran into that guy
Yeah.
that dropped, was it 230 or something in one day?
Yeah. I think by 36 hours he was at 230k or something, and then he went to bed, and then we pretty much probably should have gone to bed too,
That's right.
because that was just too much in a, what was it, 2-week comp?
Yeah.
It was
Now,
just too much for us.
it was too much. Now, I want to talk here, Styling, because I know this whole thing of preloading came up or whatever on the Xbox, which is just a wonderful thing, wonderfully disgusting thing. And I just assumed that he had saves everywhere. But Memph and I were talking earlier, and Memph said no, he actually played the games on other accounts to get a feel for time and stuff. Now, how do you feel about that, Styling? Are you setting up like that, or are you just going to balls to the wall? Because you do have a month.
I'm only doing it on the games that I play a Ratalaka on the PlayStation. I'm kind of using the PS5 to just gauge is a game worth playing or not. But
Yeah.
it's kind of stupid to do that because I end up buying these games on the Xbox before I even fucking play them on the PS5. So I completely shoot my own plan in the foot. But yeah, I don't know. I don't usually play through them. I mean, I'll pull up Chivo guides or Achievement Land and kind of give
Yeah.
that a quick look. And I'll like on this Excel sheet I have, I'll note down like which guide I should use, whether it be a video
Mm.
guide or a text guide, and I have a couple of notes about each game and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, Memph, you were telling me beforehand, so this guy even like programmed it down to basically the minute. Is that sort of correct?
From my understanding, it was literally a dot point. This game first, this game, and then yeah, he had like times, the whole 24 hours planned out and stuck to the order that he'd set. So that's some pretty solid commitment, if you ask me.
Yeah,
It's
I'd say.
crazy. It's crazy. Now, look, I don't want to sell you short either because I know you run a blog as well, which is sort of how I found out about you. And I was instantly interested when I found out that years ago you messaged we don't need to get into this, but you messaged everybody in Australia on the leaderboard to find out if you were the top in your state or not. I thought that's wonderfully OCD. I must talk to this man. It's fantastic. But you now have a blog that's tracking the performance of the top 4 Australians, across this year because one of the things, like, I jokingly put a challenge to Neo as well, and just said, "Look, I'm gonna pass you," and why not? Why not? But then, I didn't factor in the fact that the number 1 Australian on PlayStation would die in the last few weeks or to 3 months, so he may be dead now. So I've got to
Mm.
really gauge my position. It's difficult here to decide what to do, but But anyway, I thought, why not have a go at Neo? Because he's been playing, like you guys have been, and I know you've mainly been playing a lot in the last few years, but you've been playing for quite a few years. It's pretty common, for us on PlayStation to be earning about 700,000 points after 10 months. So I was like, I know it's harder on the Xbox, but you could probably knock this dude over in like 2 years or something. And obviously before he took off, and then he
Yeah.
took off or whatever and just fucked us both, or whatever else. But I did get that impression. But that aside, you four have actually been moving very fast this year, haven't you?
In Xbox terms, we have been for sure. Yeah. I can. Do you want me to go into a little bit?
Yeah,
Explain.
please.
Well, as you said, I don't know a hell of a lot about the trophy side, but you're saying 700k trophy is pretty good in a year. Is that what you'd say? But
It's a starting amount.
well, for Xbox, it's hard. It's changing all the time, but a good year would be somewhere in the 300,000 mark. I'd say now is a good year for the Xbox, and the top four, myself included, we're all ahead of that with 3 months to go. We're already, one of us is over 400, and all three of us are over 350. So, it's already a massive year. I think I looked into it a little bit, and I think all four of us have already had our best years ever, and we've got 3 months to go. So we've all been going very quick. Quicker. There's not. I think from what I've worked out, unless there's somebody like right down below us, where the four of us in Australia are in the top 10 in the world for the year so far, which is pretty crazy. Obviously, I can't check everybody, so there could be people that are starting fresh accounts and smashing it from nothing. They're too hard to track. But especially all the people that are regular high scorers, we're ahead of most of them. So for some reason, we're all pushing each other, and I'm somehow staying ahead of them, and it's been a crazy year.
Okay, good. I'm glad we touched on that. But look, we'll move on, because I know the listeners are like, for fuck's sake, that's enough gamer score trophy talk. And I know Stylin's like, for fuck's sake, this dude, all he does is tell me about the 3-minute platinums he gets. So he's had enough of it as well.
But here's the thing, though. All the pony fans can wait, just like they do with PS Now, since they don't get anything day and date. So let's stay on the Xbox topic if you want.
Well, we're definitely not going to shy away from it. That's wonderful, isn't it? PS Now, yeah. Look, it's the poor man's Game Pass, Memph. If you're not familiar with that.
Yeah, I heard it's not very good, but I don't know. That's all I know.
It's not even in Australia, which is wonderful.
It should be called PS Later, because you don't get anything good until way later.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Look, let's shift across then to some games, and why don't we start with you, Stylin? Now, we're not gonna take cheap shots here at the PlayStation. We're gonna talk games. Most of these games are, well, I don't want to say most of them are available on the PlayStation, because they don't have any games. But look, some of them are available on the PlayStation as well, on PC as well, or whatever else. So why don't we start with you, Stylin? What have you been playing?
A lot of Gears of War this past maybe week to week and a half. I've gone through and done the whole original trilogy. I just finished that up last night. And yeah, I think that was probably worth the hype. It's a really solid third-person shooter. And I think the third one is without a doubt the best gameplay-wise. I'd say it even maybe rivals Uncharted 3, which is probably my personal favorite third-person shooter. So it's really a toss-up between Gears 3 or Uncharted 3 as to which, may be my favorite third-person shooter.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And the best part about those games, though, too, is they're absolute massive grinds, which, I love a grind and a half. So it's really satisfying to me deep down inside to know that I can probably go for 1,200 hours on that trilogy. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah,
where's the grind in the? I was just gonna say, where's the grind in these games? Is it in the multiplayer? Is that what you're?
In the first game, you need to kill 10,000 opponents in ranked matches, and you can get these matches going with I believe 3v3. Well, yeah, 3v3 because you need 6 total. And you basically run to one point on the map where the grenades are, and there's like an explosive crossbow. And the most effective way to do it is run there, shoot somebody with a crossbow or throw a grenade at them, and then they're holding their melee button, which activates a chainsaw on their gun. And then I think you just run into the chainsaw and die, and then your grenade or explosive bolt blows them up, and you get credit for killing them. You can do, like, on a good match, 35 to 37 kills in 20 minutes. So you're looking at probably 100-ish per hour. So it'll be like 100 to 120 hours to grind that out in the multiplayer on the first game. And then that's not even taken into account. You need to get 100 kills with like 5 or 6 different weapons with using melee. You need to win like 100 ranked matches on these different game modes. So it's a huge, beautiful grind, and that's only the first game. So, yeah.
So in context here, man, because I know you played these games, and I'm
Yeah.
fascinated to know whether if you did this achievement. I'd be shocked if you did. But styling, of course, is this weird sort of a wonderful gaming style where these massive grinds. And I know you both play Train Sim, so maybe we get to that at some point. But he's a guy that actually enjoyed playing the Friday the 13th. I think that's correct, isn't it, sir? Where you just basically load in and kill your buddy for thousands of hours. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. Most of the guides said that was 200 to 300 hours, and it only took me and my partner around 120 to get it done. So we were real efficient with it. And I think the reason I liked it is because I got to play Xbox. I did What Remains of Edith Finch and Farming Simulator 19 while I boosted Friday the 13th. So I was able to multitask it pretty good.
Mm, mm. Okay, so Memph, you've played these games. Have you gone for that 10,000
No,
achievement?
no chance. No
Aw.
chance at all. I see that was in the early days of achievement hunting for me, and so I wasn't really going hardcore at that point. But a lot of people, I played a lot of Gears of War, especially online at the start, but a lot of people were having issues with it, and I think it's still people have issues with it today. So if you're going to follow through with that, you need to be a little bit careful. I think something about whichever your last match is of the session doesn't count or something, so the kills don't track properly, or that's my memory of it anyway. So just be a little careful that some kills don't count.
Yeah, that is the problem. So most of the
Yeah.
boosting sessions, they'll set it for like 2 hours, and you'll do 5 rounds of or 5 games of like 19 rounds or whatever it is, and then you'll finish off the night doing just one quick round to get,
Yeah.
like a 10 kills to, maybe be the ones that get lost.
Yeah. That's
But with
crazy. Yeah.
But with Gears 3, though, too, I was messaging Aerith about that, and she said she spent 200 hours on Gears 3 going for Seriously 2.0 and was only about 25% of the way towards that achievement. So I was like, that's not too bad, because Epic Games made Fortnite, and that was about 1,100 hours. So I could kind of get 2 completions for the price of 1, so I'm pretty happy with that.
That's good. Now I want to ask you about, because you've been raving about these games, and so they're on my list to play at some point. What's the story like? Do I need to start with the first one? Is the story that good, or is it more just the gameplay loop that's enjoyable?
I think the first one, it really is like typical Epic fashion. Like when you turn on Save the World on Fortnite, it's just like, oh, cutscenes, and then suddenly they disappear from the game. And it's just like the good gameplay that keeps you going. But I would recommend, obviously starting from the first one, because the story just progresses onward. The third one kind of, you could maybe do the third one standalone. There is like a previously on Gears of War cutscene you can click to play, and it's only like maybe a minute or two, and it really does sum up everything that happened. So maybe there isn't all that much story to begin with if it can be summed up in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I like that. Now, look, you've got to have to tell us about Skatebird. We are talking about it briefly. Look, it's a wet dream here for the true TA score, 6,400 in 8 hours and 53 minutes. So it either implies that it's ridiculously janky, or everybody starts it and nobody finishes it. So what's the deal?
It's not that janky, but the thing that really had me ripping my hair out and throwing every swear word in the book at the game was when you had to do like a tight turning radius. because the fucking front end of your board would come up off the ground, and then your bird would just fall down and clumsily get back up, and it just, I don't know. I really didn't fail anything on the game, but fuck, my blood pressure was through the roof on that game with rage, even though I pretty much passed every mission first attempt. It's very janky, I guess, in some respect.
This game, Memph, like I know you don't care about completion percentage. You can actually get 80 points for just turning the game on,
Ooh,
which is what I did.
I might do that. I'll take the 80 and leave it.
You might be able to get more if you play for 5 minutes, but just turning it on, you get that.
I
That's
like
the
it.
good part about the game, though. You turn it on and then it's on your list. There's no deleting it like you can on PlayStation because they don't give trophies out right away.
That's, that's right. That's right. Shout out to the Christian Games dropping shortly here. Now, look, Sunset Overdrive. So, styling. I have a lot of games, so it's very difficult to twist my arm into buying a new game at this point because I have such a massive backlog. What a wank that would be to get through. But you've been raving about this game. It looks like you're 5 points away from finishing it,
Ugh.
which is wonderful. You should just leave that there. I like that. But you really enjoyed this, huh?
Yeah, it's an Insomniac exclusive for Xbox, and it's probably their best game I've played. It's just over
Yeah.
the top insanity. It's pretty much like Ratchet and Clank's gun variety, kind of meets like not like a massive skill related Spider-Man, but I mean, you can't just like do your ability and keep going. I mean, you've played Spider-Man. I assume when you were going around doing like the 320 crimes that were oh so enjoyable, you could
Yeah.
shoot your web and it just attached to nothing at times and just keep you swinging on. You can't
Mhm.
really do that in Sunset, but yeah, I think it's like Ratchet, Spider-Man, and then maybe like the insanity of like a Saints Row 4/Saints Row Get Out of Hell storyline. I mean, I had a blast playing the whole thing. I mean, it's just total fucking carnage, and I hoard up all my money in that and didn't buy the good guns. And I didn't think the game was too hard, but then you suddenly get to the end, and I bought this weapon called the hairspray bomb, and it's like, shit, now my game's chugging because there's just constant pandemonium on my screen, just wrecking everything.
Yeah. What I liked about this game was I got this when I got like the X1 years ago. This came bundled with it, and it's still in the plastic because it might be maybe it'll be a collector's item one day if I ever get to it. Probably will be. But the DLC you said is quite good in this game as well, and I really like. I know PlayStation sometimes has some DLC sales, but very rarely. The Xbox seems to really rotate a lot of DLC sales, or at least in the last 6 months they have anyway. And this game came up for like, I think it was $6 Australian, which there's no currency small enough in America to describe what that is. So just take it as free basically for you. And I was quite impressed. But the DLC, what do you think? Am I going to enjoy this? Should I play it?
The DLC is very short, and I don't often enjoy DLC. I usually despise it with every fiber of my being, but I actually wanted more of it because it wasn't 15 minutes I played. I played 15 hours, and I can definitely say the game is indeed a masterpiece. So
Yeah.
the DLC is worth playing for sure.
Okay. Okay. Now, look, I want to wank on about this game a little bit. I'm not sure if it's a game for either of you, but it's definitely a CJ game. This game, but I know you've both played it. Memph, you played it on my recommendation that it could be done in 3 hours. I hope that was roughly correct. I'm not sure if it was or not. Stylen played it, I think, because I think he enjoyed it too, but for the music. But we'll find out. Or anyway, I'm talking about The Artful Escape. It was a Annapurna published game or whatever, small studio. They've been kicking around forever. Finally comes out on Game Pass, which was surprising,
Day and date.
but yeah, thank you, Phil. Again, what did you think of this, Memph? Did you like it, or was it just gamer score? Was it
No,
3 hours?
yeah, it was about 3 hours. I loved it actually. I was upset that I couldn't do it in one sitting, and I wanted to go back and finish it off. And yeah, I for what it is, if you try to explain it to somebody like what it is, like a side-scrolling rhythm game with like bright colors and a weird story, it doesn't sound very good. But it actually was a lot of fun, and I kind of wish it was a little bit longer, which is weird because I only play quick stuff usually, but I was wanting more. I wanted more weird characters and weird planets and weird things going on. But yeah, no, it was a great recommendation, and I absolutely loved it.
That's the right thing to say. Thank you. You can come back. Stylen, what did you think?
Yeah, I freaking loved it. I mean, I probably one of the best main menu songs I've heard in the game. I know people usually don't give a fuck about that, but yeah, very good main menu music. And yeah, like Meph said, it's pretty much like a rhythm side-scrolling platformer. And what I would equate it to is if you pretty much just take DMT, that's probably what you're gonna hallucinate, shit like that the game world's had. So I really, I mean, it was incredibly imaginative, but to be honest, as much as I enjoyed it, towards the end I did start tapping that, is it the A button to skip the dialogue, because I just wanted to get to the next, like, totally whacked out world and see what the graphics were gonna look like. But it was well worth playing, for sure.
One of my favorite things about this game was when you did the jump, you could hold down, I don't know which button it is, but it would extend the jump by wailing on the guitar, like you would float or whatever else. And also in the mini games or whatever, like, you know, they're scripted or whatever, like a rhythm game, but there was a bit of freedom with the timing. Like you didn't have to be, you know, you copied it, but you didn't have to be the same time. So you could muck around with the chords or whatever. And I'm really, you know, I'm really partial to a Just Dance, which I know discuss both of you, a bit of Baby Shark perhaps. I really like my singing games, you know, I'm working on the country one at the moment. It's wonderful, or whatever else, you know, microphone in hand. And I like to get into it or whatever. And I was really up on my feet there with a bit of, you know, controller air guitar, I suppose. And I know you play a bit of guitar style. And did it move you like that, or is this just a bit ridiculous?
I like more acoustic, but it definitely, I mean, the menu music inspired me, so I did pick up the guitar and kind of figured out what the chords were to that. But yeah, I mean, I loved how you just had the freedom to hit, you know, kind of whatever timing you wanted on those notes there, while your dude just shredded like a fucking god. It was pretty badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Now I know I'm leading you here, so like by all means throw out whatever you want. But the next game, like I played when it came out or whatever else, Don't Nod. So I'm a massive fan of their stuff anyway, and particularly a massive fan of this game because there's not like sexuality, and we don't need to go down this line, but in many games is still like a bit of a taboo subject or whatever, which is ironic considering Blizzard doesn't seem to have a problem with sexuality in their Office place, just the wrong type, I suppose. But this game or whatever, so it pushes that next level, the transgender angle, which is, you know, it's very relevant in the work that I do now, because I work with some students in this position or whatever else, and it's been wonderful over the last 2 years for me to learn more about their life and you know, the struggles and all these sorts of things, and then to see it in a game like Tell Me Why, I thought was really poignant for me. I'm not sure how this game goes down in the mainstream though with its subject material, but I know you're not averse to Don't Nod games. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Especially after 12 minutes, it helped me transition back into some gaming enjoyment, because 12 minutes sucked ass. But I can see Tell
Is
Me
it
Why making a lot of people angry for sure. But yeah, I liked it.
is
What
12
were you gonna
minutes
say?
really that bad?
Yeah, that was unbelievably boring. And then
Oh,
I think, what were you gonna say?
sorry, you go. I'll cut that bit out.
Oh,
No, I'll just say it again. Was 12 minutes really that bad?
it was really fucking boring. And the achievement guide that I used, one of the achievements didn't pop, so I didn't really realize it, and then I had to go back and play a little bit more of the game. So that kind of just kicked me while I was down on the ground already.
Have you played it, Memph?
No, I haven't. I've been waiting because I've heard there's a few troublesome achievements, and I heard people having issues with some of the guides. So I was waiting for one of the heavy hitter guide makers to make a proper guide, and then I'll go through it.
Well, don't use achievement land.
No, they were. Who do you know? Probably shouldn't call out, but do you know who made it? Who the actual gamer was that made that in the achievement land? Was it Bills or was it someone else?
I think it was it like a British dude with a pretty
Right.
like
Yeah.
sarcastic, cynical humor. I mean, he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
funny to listen to, but it really fucking pissed me off when I missed that achievement.
yeah, yeah. See, I find going completely off topic here, but I find Achievement Land, if Bills does the guide, they're brilliant, but any of their others are a bit average. So I'll wait for somebody else.
Which one's Bill's? Is he like the American dude or whatever?
Yeah, he's the American guy. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
still really new to them, obviously. I'm
right. Yeah,
yeah,
he
only
does
just
brilliant
recently
guides.
found them.
Yeah,
Sweet.
I can't believe, don't you? I always like, I don't know who's doing the right thing or not, because most of the time I don't finish the game, so it doesn't matter anyway. But I listen to the first bit of the guide, and I just have to listen to that Chivo guide
Oh,
over and over again and think of the Scream mask in Halloween, and I do the tongue.
Oh,
I just love it. I love it. He just needs to put that. It probably disgusts you by the sound of it.
I hear it every day nearly because the way I play the games, I'm smashing games all the time, and if there's a choice, I don't pick his guides anymore. He does brilliant guides, but
Yeah.
it's just that intro. I can't handle it. I know I could skip past it, but I don't know. There's just something. It's really nitpicky, but it's just something about his voice because every time, even when he talks, I can just still hear the intro like bouncing around in my head. So yeah, no, it's all good. He does good guides.
it is a godforsaken intro, though. I'll tell you. Before I got onto the Xbox, I used to hear him and I thought, "Oh my god, I can't fucking stand this guy." And now I have to use his guides, but they are good guides, so I am kind of getting more
They are.
acclimatized to
I'm
that
sad.
horrible intro.
Yeah.
I love that intro. I listen to it 3 times before I go into the guide. It's wonderful.
Oh my god, you better not. Surely not.
I was almost going to bring it up then, but look, I
Oh,
won't. Now,
guys.
I want to ask you. It's a sort of we can keep it non-spoilerish styling on the Tell Me Why. I don't know, Memph, have you played it? Tell me why.
I have, yes.
Oh, good. So, okay, so we're not spoiling it for anyone in particular. But you mentioned style. I know this was a few weeks ago now when you played this, but you talked about a particular scene on the ice there where you were determined not to leave until there was some romantic entanglement. And the reason I bring it up is there's a very similar situation in the Life is Strange True Colors, which we won't spoil or whatever. And I played that on the X, loved it, so playing it again on the PS5 now. And I got into that same point, and they do that scene incredibly well, and the way they lay out the music in as well is just phenomenal from this thing. And I know you haven't played the True Colors or whatever, but you've listened to the soundtrack, I believe. Is that right?
Oh yeah, quite a few times. Despite not playing the game, it's already got like a minimum 8 out of 10 rating for me just on the soundtrack alone.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I'm going to discuss both of you even more because what I love about this studio is they do teenage angst so well, and it's like watching like a whole new season every time a new game comes out, a whole new season of Dawson's Creek, which I think is wonderful. But what is the straight man's attraction to these games? This Joey Pacey Dawson love triangle, 20 years later when we're all old. What's the attraction, Starlin?
Probably 1500 G's. There's a minute. But I don't know. I don't know. I just get into some of the emotional story arcs or whatever that are in there. I mean, my favorite movie of all time is Titanic, so I'm sure you can
Oh,
understand why I get into some of those,
yes.
heart-throbbing scenes and whatnot.
I love it. Okay. Look, we'll throw out one more serious one before we go over to Meth here. This one interests me. I just doubt that I'll ever get to it now, and I know it was delisted in some format or whatever. But Forza Motorsport 7, you put 116 hours into this beast or whatever. Any of these games, they require a huge amount of time. I've said before that like I play almost every racing game that's been on PlayStation, and I don't think any have really come up to the standard of what Forza has across both series on the Xbox. Having played that now and put the time into it, what do you think? Is it a really stand up racing game, or is it overrated?
I think the physics obviously took a little bit of getting used to because I really haven't played a racing game for quite some time. Probably, well, I say that, but believe I played Art of Rally a little bit, like during Forza. So, yeah, but that's a completely different sort of top-down racer. But like the last kind of simulator game I played was probably either Assetto Corsa or Gran Turismo Sport. So
Mm.
yeah, it took a little getting used to that handling model because Assetto just kind of has fucked me on every racing game because I don't move the stick enough, and I tend to just go straight into the wall for the first 20 minutes of playing because you had to be so sensitive on Assetto. But
Yeah.
I think I look forward to Forza Motorsport 8. I mean, obviously Forza Horizon 5, but like Forza 7, when did that come out? Was it like 2017 or something? Yeah, 2017. I'm looking here on TA. That has better car audio than by a mile than what I hear in Gran Turismo 7. And
Mm.
you know, you take the lack of power of the X1 into consideration, and I mean, the game's just buttery smooth the whole time, highly detailed. So in
Yeah.
terms of like performance and car audio, it's great. It has a pretty solid driving physics. I don't think I like it quite as much as Gran Turismo Sport, but it's real close to it. And then I think in terms of the career mode, I kind of do wish it had like an old school Gran Turismo feel where you had to pick one car and you kind of had that, you know, rabbit chase to get first place, because most of these you can just knock the AI down to baby mode and just freaking romp right up to the lead and dominate everything. I mean, you
Yeah.
can actually turn the game on easy, turn the assists onto very easy, and the game literally drives itself for you. For two of the endurance races in that, I just turned it on very easy, sat the controller down, did something else on the computer, and came back like 4 hours later with P1 endurance race complete, and didn't have to sit through doing like 80 laps on a track.
Yeah. So that sounds perfect to me.
Yeah, you could, yeah, maybe you could complete it, turn it on very easy, let the game play itself while you do work, while you're in those conference calls, just like that Final
That's right.
Fantasy fishing.
That's right. That's right. Right. Well, I had to abandon work, fishing from work, so I went down the wrong line. So I do
Oh,
need
what a
that. That
shame.
that sounds. What a I was just thinking when you mentioned Assetto, you're about the only person I know that finished that game without playing it on a wheel. I think that's phenomenal, but it's crazy. Absolutely, it's all pad, wasn't it, for you on that game?
Yeah, all pad, and like I kind of had to dial in the settings, but yeah, like you
Yeah.
said on that old push to plat, you know, with my vision, wasn't really an option to do a wheel, so. But I don't
Mm,
think the
mm,
handling's really that bad. You just kind of got to get used to it a little bit, really. And then it just, like
mm.
I said, fucks you for every other racing game for about 20 minutes. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that Competizione on the Xbox. I believe it's getting a Series X and S upgrade in February,
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm sure Phil will probably toss it onto Game Pass, and that'll be another 300-hour completion. I'll be just licking my chops to dive into.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, look, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. Now, look, why don't we jump over, Meth, to you here? And I just pulled up your card, and the first game on there, that's fantastic because Styling is going to have an orgasm if you talk about that game.
We
And I
could,
thought, oh
we
no,
can.
he's played 5 minutes of it, but he hasn't. He's played a substantial amount of time into it. So hopefully you're going to start with that game. And
Sure.
Styling, have you got a towel there or something?
I've got a box of tissues here. They're a
Oh,
40-weight
okay.
pool, so I should be good.
Excellent.
So, Fishing North Atlantic is the game.
Oh,
Pure sim. What else can I say? You just go fishing with the boats, and you go big career mode. So you start off with a little crappy boat, and you can barely do anything. And then as you start making a little bit of money selling some, spearing some tuna, you can then get the bigger boats and work your way towards deep line fishing. And yeah, it's a long grind. I think it's about 80 hours, 60 to 80 hours, and it doesn't. Well, I don't know exactly how much I've spent on it, but it doesn't feel like a grind yet. It still feels fun and new because you're always getting a new boat. You're always wanting to upgrade, so everything's different. All the boats are slightly different, so different enough that it doesn't feel like a chore. So a lot of fun, and yeah, as we said, simulation, which is what I love, and yeah, what else do you want me to really say about it? You're not going to play it, CJ, so you've probably
No, not
muted me. So
No. I've got to ask you, and Styling can back me up here if I'm wrong. I could be, but I don't think so. On the PlayStation, maybe not on the Xbox, I thought there was trophy glitches with this, where if you caught 5,000 swordfish, you actually got a trophy for something else, and maybe the COD trophy, and there was all this weird stuff going on. Whether that's been patched out, I'm not sure if you know Styling or not. But is that the case on Xbox? Like, it seems to be okay for you.
no, yeah, I've not had anything like that. Well, not yet anyway. But I've only probably caught the base level achievement for each fish type, so maybe that's still to come. I don't know. I'd love to pop like the 5,000 swordfish early. That would be fantastic, because I assume there's a way to catch them in nets at some point, but at the moment it's literally just, if I want to catch them, I got to use a spear. I got to use a harpoon, and I can't imagine how long that would bloody take, harpooning 5,000 swordfish. So, oh yeah, I assume at some point there'll be some way to catch them, and that will be a lot faster, but I don't know yet.
The most important question, sorry, Stalin, and I know this will set him over the edge here. He'll shoot everywhere, but does this game have in-game tracking or tracking on the Xbox?
It does have tracking. You can live tracking as you pull in your net. The achievements will go up. Oh, it's heaven, because not enough games do it. Like, not enough do, and a game like this to do it is phenomenal, because there's no like statistic menu anywhere to be found, so you don't actually know how much you've ever caught unless you're tracking it yourself, I suppose. And because of the randomness of it, you're pulling in a net, and when you pull it in, you're literally only seeing like 6 fish, but it's really 3,000 kilos of fish. So it's you can't actually tell until you're back to port selling, and luckily enough, the achievements track perfectly, so it's good.
Oh, that's perfect then. I hate when there's games like that where you gotta catch so many fish, and it's just like, I think I'm doing good. Seems like I'm doing good, but I really don't know.
Yeah, it's so annoying. It really is, and I'm glad, because I think this company have made several. Like, they've made Barrent Sea, which I completed. I don't remember if that tracked though, but at least this one does. And from what I've found, no glitches, runs smoothly. It's actually really good, but not many people are going to play it, obviously, because it's a fishing game. Like, I'll be real, but for what it is actually is a brilliant game. Works perfectly. That, like I said, no glitches, achievements track, everything you could want is there. So,
well, that's one of those games. I remember when that first came out, CJ messaged me. He's like, "Oh, here's one that you'll have to try," and I'm like, "Already saw it, already on the list to do. Can't wait."
There's so much similarities between you two. Like, and I've slowly chipped away at Starling. He used to be a real gamer. Now he's sort of a real gamer, but he plays a lot of shit for a real gamer, Meph, I have to say. And so it's been great to see I've had that influence on him there. But, there are so many similarities. And what I like about Styling, because we play like totally opposite games, jokes aside or whatever, so we should have nothing in common at all. But he loves a bit of jank in his games. And he's also, and I think you perhaps have as well, he's done all these like mountain rescue simulators and fire simulators, make me a sandwich simulator. Like, you both love all these games, don't you?
That's right. Yeah, I've done all the ones I can on Xbox anyway, like Airport Simulator, Firefighters the game, Airport Firefighter Simulator, Treasure Hunter Simulator. That's pretty new. Did that in like the second day it came out. Just sat there and played it nonstop until I'd done it. It's I can't even explain it, like, why I like these games, because I know most of the time they're pretty bad. Like, for a game, they're not that great. They're, nobody else is really going to play them, but for some reason I just can't stop, and I just play them all, and for the most part I enjoy them all. Like, all of them I've enjoyed. Like, it's even Treasure Hunter Simulator, which really you get like a radar, like a sonar kind of device, and you just dig shit up. That's all it is. That's the whole game. And but I still enjoyed it. Yeah, that's it. There's nothing else to it. You got to. Well, I suppose there is a few things you got to find. Like, use the map. Like, they have photos, and there's something buried there, so you got to kind of figure out where that photo is on the map. But it's just, it's luckily enough, it's probably short. If that was an 80-hour game, I'd probably start hating it towards the end. But yeah, for some reason, I find enjoyment in all of them.
I think the addicting thing though with that treasure hunter sim is you just whip your big old stick out and start waving it around the ground, and you hear the beep 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 beep, beep.
Yeah, that's
When you
it.
get your shovel out, dig that up, it's like, oh shit, a rusty button or a rusty bottle cap. But you keep looking, and then you get that creme de la creme, man, and it just you
Yeah,
sell it for a lot of money. But that airport simulator that pisses me off. I was actually in contact with Toplitz Productions because you can't. It's like your employee. You need to get them to level 10 or whatever, maxed out on their skills, and you can't level any of them up. And I was
that's
actually
right.
messaged. Yeah, I messaged them, and they were going to get the dev team that did the game to work on it, but then they just fell behind schedule and whatnot. Last winter because of COVID and whatnot, and then I guess their deal with that specific dev expired. So unfortunately, that game's never getting patched, which really pisses me off because I'd love to
Yeah,
have that complete.
that's about when I turned it off. When I realised I couldn't level my employees up, I stopped it there because, like you said, I was hoping I didn't know anything about the devs really, but I was hoping one day it'd be patched and then I could just pick it back up, and I've never turned it back on since. So yeah, it's disappointing.
I was so desperate on that. Like when I messaged them and I knew they were working on it, I thought, okay, maybe this will get fixed. So I pulled up a blank account and put 35 hours into the game to get everything else done. And then they told
Wow.
me that there was nothing that was going to be done about it. And I'm like, like some people have popped this trophy. Like, is there one specific employee? Like, you need to get Heinrich von Splutzenberg or whatever to work for you, and then he'll be able to do it because they're all those crazy ass German names and whatnot on the game.
Yep.
But I thought,
Yeah.
maybe you get one specific name and that'll be the one to do it. But I thought, fuck, I can't be bothered grinding all that. That's just too much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, have you
But no
done
reward,
Cooking
maybe.
Simulator?
I've done. Yes, I have done Cooking Simulator. Yes,
I'm,
not the
I'm
new
pumped.
DLC, but
Oh, the pizza.
I have.
Mamma
Yeah,
mia. But
that's glitched out on me too. I can't pop the 15-hour achievement no matter what I do. It won't pop.
oh man. Well, I
So
saw they had that 30 decorations bugged for ages, and
yeah,
finally that got fixed. So I'm
yeah.
happy about that. But it's not fixed over on the PlayStation side. So
Oh,
not that I really care because I'm not going to do it over there anyway. I'll get it on the Xbox and do it.
we could
It's
talk all
like
day.
I know. It's like it's like in the playground again, isn't it, listeners? Measuring the size of their simulation sticks. It's just wonderful, you know. but look, let's shuffle along. What else have you got here? I'm going to be selfish, Meph, because I can. And I
Yep.
bought this the other day. It could be garbage. I know it's short, but I see you finished it. Little Kite.
Little Kite. Yeah, that's little point and click. About an hour. Deals with some heavy stuff actually. It's your standard point and click. Pick up this, take it a few screens over, do something somewhere with it. A few puzzles to solve. Very easy, but the story very heavy. Like it deals with domestic violence and like it's a troubled relationship and lots of bad things are going on, and it kind of it's it may I don't think you can skip the dialogue, so you kind of read it or turn away, I suppose. So it kind of makes you follow the story, and it makes you feel sad for the main character, because I know it's only a game, and yeah, but there are people that obviously deal with this kind of stuff in real life too. But it's kind of it's kind of horrific actually for some of the things that do happen to this poor woman, and you don't kind of expect that. I didn't going in anyway, and yeah, by the end of it, yeah, you're kind of rooting for her because she's been through a fair bit and can't get out of the situation she's in, and yeah, it was a bit like heavy for a point and click, bit heavy for a game in general, but it's enjoyable on the whole because yeah, I don't want to spoil anything for people that will play it, but it starts off pretty dark and has a happy ending. That's all. I don't think that's really spoiling anything because that's the whole point of the game, is you're trying to get to that happy ending. So Yeah, pretty good, pretty quick, pretty heavy.
That sounds
I
perfect.
think
I
a
mean,
happy ending is what you always aim to get, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, that's right.
that's how I play.
Jesus.
But yeah, no, I might bump that up. I might bump that up. Now, look, I've got to ask because we're having this wonderful resurgence on the PlayStation of spam. It never really went anywhere, but it's really in the last month or so. It's really hit the maximum capacity coming out because, as we know, PlayStation have given up on quality control now. They brought out the PS5, of course. So anything now goes on that system, which is awesome. And of course, we've embraced Zidalon and many wonderful things like the Castle of No Escape, the I think it's a platformer, the Explorer of the Night. I'm not sure what that is. The Story Tale, it's very long and interesting, or whatever else for a spam game. But then most PlayStation gamers now are only used to these sort of titles. Bullet Beat as well, I think was theirs. They're all very, very easy. And then just recently, there's been a couple come across that are maybe not on the Xbox yet that are not quite so easy. One of them that is though on the Xbox, and I see you play is this Shihiro, however you pronounce that. Is that actually easy, or is that a bit more of a challenging platformer here?
See, I've actually had a conversation with a friend in real life about this because it's hard to say a game isn't easy when it takes less than an hour, I think. But for some people, it will take longer than an hour. I'm not saying I'm good at games. That's not what I'm trying to say. It is challenging, but they give you so many checkpoints that it's hard to fail. Like if you tried to play it and kill everything you can, and play it probably the way the game is intended, it is a hard game. You die in like 4 hits, and enemies there's kind of 5 enemies on the screen at all times, and some of them are shooting, and you kind of got to. And the bosses are hard. You only get 5 hits in the bosses, and they're pretty hard. You'll die to most bosses at least once. So it is a hard game, but it still only takes an hour. So can you say a game is hard if it's only an hour long? I don't know. Doesn't sound hard, does it? But it is. For what we play, it is. It's a hard hour.
Yeah. I'm just thinking it'll probably be like 10 hours for me. So
No, it won't be 10. The good way to look at it is on TA, it's 1200 TA. So for an hour game, that is a lot of TA for an hour game.
Yeah.
So that tells a little story in itself, I suppose. It maybe not hard is the right word. Maybe it's challenging at times, maybe you could say. Because the bosses are tough until you learn kind of the patterns a little bit and you can dodge their attacks. And yeah. But there is an easy mode, and even easy mode, you die in 5 hits. But the guides tell you just to run from every enemy anyway, because there's no like upgrades. There's no point killing them. You don't get anything really. So you can literally just dodge roll the whole way from checkpoint to checkpoint if you want. Which your mileage will vary because there's so many enemies. Eventually, you're going to roll into an enemy and it'll probably hit you. But yeah, so many checkpoints. It's a good little hack. It's a good little hack and slash actually. It's worth playing if you like that genre, I suppose. But it is very short.
It could be a possible inclusion for the list then, Stylin.
I've put an asterisk on it after hearing what Matthew said about that, but hopefully when they put it up to 5000 G, all the extra 4K will be easy. So it's not out of the realm of possibility yet. That's for sure.
Now, every now and then, Meph, a game that looks absolute trash comes onto the store and I have to acquire it. And look, I may be wrong on this game, but having a look at the picture and the name, I thought this will be one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. I therefore must buy this today. And I haven't got to it yet, but correct me if I'm wrong, this Death Park. What is this?
It's you get everything from the game in the title. It's a death park. That's what it is. Now there's like this killer. You're in like an amusement park, and you're getting chased by a killer clown, and it's always on you. So even when you leave the area, apparently it knows and it's followed you to the next area, and it's kind of like a hide and seek kind of game. You're trying to progress through the areas and dodging the clown who will one shot you, and it's easy. Another easy game, quick game. Doesn't really have much going for it. It's not a pretty game. The only thing going for it is it works. The game runs. There's no glitches, and as long as you're following a guide, you'll have no trouble because it's kind of point and click style where you pick up a piece of meat and you got to do something with this meat later on. And it's, from what I can tell, there's no real clear telling you where to go, where to take things and what to do. It doesn't really make sense. Like you're putting a piece of meat in a cage and there's nothing in the cage, but you got to put it there and then that'll trigger the next thing. So I don't know how they figured it out to start with because it doesn't hold your hand at all. I suppose just playing around, but it's okay. What else can you say? It's an under-hour game, cheap, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a cheap game. It plays like a cheap game, runs like a cheap game, is a cheap game. But I assume that means you'll probably enjoy it, CJ.
Oh, look, I'm going to love it. I can't wait. Just the picture of that clown is so bogan and degenerate that it's just me all over. I can't wait for that. And it was a reasonable price too. I love when they make a shit game with a shit price. That's great. I think that
it's perfect.
Doesn't always happen.
It's the perfect price point because it's it's going to be garbage going in. You just know. Yeah, and I can spend $9 on garbage or $9 Australian. It's nothing. I don't know if I got my $9 worth, but do I ever? That's the thing.
I can respect that because of course on the flip end of the side, I also respect these people that make a shithouse game but charge well for it, like Street Outlaws 2, where it looks like it's going to actually be an improvement, but it's the same game. So I respect that. I respect all sides of the charging margin, but I do prefer when it's on the lower end for the experience. Now,
did you buy
it? Sorry,
did you buy Street Outlaws 2? Did you?
Look, I platinumed the first Street Outlaws on PlayStation, so I was always in for the sequel.
Right, fair enough.
I like it, but it's janky as fuck for sure. Yeah.
That's its charm, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you played it?
I don't. I haven't. I've got it sitting here physical, and I'm scared to install it because I'll probably will play it if I install it. Oh, it's not. It's not bad.
No, it's very addictive.
Oh, okay. How long? 8 to 10?
Yeah, easily 8 to 10.
Right.
No longer than that. And it's the premise for the first one was that like you do these little mini events or whatever, and it leads to a section boss, and it's all the same event every time because it's just a drag race, same mechanics, but. One of the bizarrest things in this game was that the roads in some of the races are really narrow and your car develops, like I know when you shift, obviously the car is going to move a little, to the left or right, but the car just suddenly starts to drift heavily off the road and the road is so short that you end up off the road on this drift race, which I think is bad programming, not actually a desire of the game. I don't think they maybe realize that, but of course you can't have the boss fights at the end of each section, if you like, a sort of 3 or 4 opponents to reach this person on the list, and you have to beat them to move up the list, the whole point of the game. But because it's so cheap, you can easily lose a race through no fault of your own, and then you have to go through the whole thing again. And I know I lived with it and it was fine, and it still only took about 8 hours even with that. But I know you can, I know the common thing on the PlayStation is to make a save before that, just in case. I'm not sure how that works on the Xbox, but you could do that. Yeah, harder, but it's still very easy. The second one though is a much longer game, a bit more fleshed out, perhaps. But yeah, if you like the first one, you might like the second one.
Maybe I'll give it a go sometime.
Yeah.
I do own it, so I probably should play it. Go.
The last one I would ask you about it, we can't get away without talking about an MMO briefly, Sea of Thieves here, or whatever else. You've sunk a shitload of time into it. It's very similar to me with 14. You're hostage to this game because it looks like you're trying to make the 1,000, but you're still a fair way off. And I imagine that's hundreds of hours to get that last bit. Is that the position you're in, or have you given up trying to get the 1,000 and you're just playing for enjoyment?
Yeah, I'm never going to complete the game. I'm never going to go into the PvP mode. I just know I'm not. So I think last time we did speak about this, probably a year ago, I did have delusions of grandeur that I might be able to complete it, but I'm not. I've given up on that. I've recently started it up again this week because they dropped another title update pack with some achievements and added some new stuff. So I just wanted to check that out, and it's a brilliant game. It really is. It copped a lot of crap, but it I don't know. It's a beautiful looking game and it runs perfect. And I think people just love shitting on it for no reason anymore. There's nothing. They always complain about lack of content. What do? You're just sailing around a map. And yeah, okay, you are just sailing around a map. But there is actually ridiculously amounts of stuff to do now. Like it is too much now. So there's just everywhere you go, there is something going on now. Like everywhere. You could maybe when you're sailing around, you can see if you look around 360, you could probably see, one island away in every direction. And there's obviously different clues in the game world, so well, there's a boss over there because there's like a fire tornado, so that island has a boss on it. And I'd say nearly every island there is something on it now. So I know you're just killing bosses, but isn't that what every game really is? Just going and killing bosses, or going and finishing a level, or going and finishing a story mission. It's the same as every other game, and it's for someone jumping in now. It'd be overwhelming, the amount of stuff. It would actually be overwhelming because like I said, there's literally 50 different things going on a map, and then you've got other human boats sailing around trying to kill you all the time. So there's even more stuff to worry about. But it is. I loved it from the day I first played it, and I'll probably always love it because it's just a really well done game.
I wanted to ask, I think this is the game they showed was it with Disney crossover with the Pirates of the Caribbean? Has that come yet, or is that still coming?
Yeah, that was the update before this most recent one, and that was really good too. That was like a full, I don't know how long it took me exactly, maybe 10 hours of story missions. It was only probably 5 or 6, but they're really long, and they took you off the game map. So that was probably the best part about it, because the game map, while it is pretty big, it was probably getting a bit stale because there's nothing new on the map itself, if that makes sense. Like, it was always the same. I don't know. I think there's probably 50. I don't know how many islands there are, but there's probably 50 islands on the map, but nothing ever really changed on the islands itself. It was the map stayed the same. So these took you into the Pirates of the Caribbean world, I haven't seen the movies, so I don't know how true it is to the lore of the movies, but it took you to Pirates of the Caribbean locations, as far as I know, and the characters in the game, the movies were in the game, and followed a story. I don't know if it was based on the movies or not. I don't think it was based on the movies, but at least like a spin-off story, and tied it all into the Sea of Thieves stories, and how it was always like it made it link together, which obviously the link isn't there. That was kind of forced due to the game being in the game, but it was just nice and different. The missions were not your standard, just go here and kill a bunch of skeletons. They were a bit different. It was like a whole platforming section, and lots of little different things, and it was actually really good and it was for free as well. So if you got Game Pass, you're paying Game Pass obviously, but you're playing Sea of Thieves for free. And then you're getting all these updates. Nothing has been paid in Sea of Thieves unless you want the season pass, which gives you just in-game currencies. Really, it's not really, you don't really have to do it. And yeah, I've not spent, other than paying for Game Pass, obviously, I've not spent a cent on Sea of Thieves, and I don't know how much I've spent. 300 hours probably played all up, and I can play it with the wife sitting next to me. She loves it, so you're just not going to get many achievements out of it. Like, I think I've got 60 achievements to go, somewhere around there, and I might be able to get 20 of them if I played another 100 hours. It's not a game I put on for achievements, put it that way. But the new title update gave new achievements, which was always nice, and I'll continue doing that because I haven't finished the new title update, and we'll see how we go from there.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I have a feeling it's one of the great games that I'll never get to, just for sheer time. Obviously, the word free here, it doesn't have the same ramifications as it does, in the Xbox world. PlayStation gamers don't understand that word. So, you could look that up in a dictionary or whatever else, but it's an important word on the Xbox ecosystem. In Phil, we trust there. So look, I think we've done the gaming section justice, because I know those dudes and girls, they're normally here each week. They go on forever. So I'll keep mine very brief before we move to the leaderboards and then the questions. But I've been sucked into Judgment, and I don't know why I waited so long. I really enjoyed Yakuza series when I played it, the Kiwami. In fact, over the space of a year, I think I played Kiwami 1 and 2, 6 and 7, and now Judgment or whatever. And I didn't expect this to follow on so closely in the same style. It's if you have an interest in this series, but you don't want to invest in the overall, the numbers in the Yakuza, because there's so many, this could be a good place to start. It's it's exactly what I love about a game. It's a studio that's taken their world, and rather than make a new world every game like Assassins, or the Ubi trend, they just keep the same city, Camarucho mainly, and they just develop the story. So yeah, there's slight, graphical improvements, or they flesh out a bit, but you can go into almost every building. You can go up these random staircases. You really, for a smallish map, there's so much in there that's been built out over years. And then the story as well, I think it's just fantastic, or whatever. There's some annoying things in the game. Definitely the use of this stealth following mission is way overused, or whatever. But if you can get your head around that, and you want to play a 30-hour narrative, and we talk about games being like 30 hours, but like maybe have 10 hours of narrative, if that really. This game is like 20 to 30 hours of solid narrative, or whatever. So it's fantastic, but you probably heard of it. I'll throw out, maybe because Styling will be interested, a little bit on the Hot Wheels Unleashed. Have you seen this one, Styling?
Ooh, yeah, a mate of mine was actually talking to me about that and said it looked pretty good, but I saw on TA it got like a 6 out of 10, but he was telling me IGN gave it a 9, so
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see what you think about it.
Yeah, so Milestone, obviously we're used to them with racing games or whatever else. They're probably outside of the two Microsoft studios. They're the main player now in racing games or whatever else. The only player that PlayStation has access to, really decent player. And so this game, like, I was really scared with this game because they had their Micro Machines game a few years ago, which was absolute trash. And this reeked like it could have just been a licensed piece of trash as well. But just through the nature of holidays and things, I decided to take the risk and pre-order and get those extra days use of the game. And only mention that because this game is heavily microtransaction to a degree. Not if you want to get the platinum or the completion, although it will help. But insofar as they're going to bring out expansion packs, and Milestone know how trophies and achievements work, so I imagine that most
Yes,
of
they
those
do.
packs will end up with trophies or achievements as well. They don't always know how to unglitch them, but they know how to how they work. But surprisingly, no glitch trophies so far in this game, which is wonderful. But there
Wow.
are 3 packs on launch now. If you order the Turbo Grand Spanking Edition, you only get one of the 3. So there's going to be a lot of purchases in this game as time goes on, and they're not just cosmetics either in the packs. So the general spread of the game is there's a board, if you like, and there's hundreds of events across the board, whether they be time trials or races. They're predominantly, or boss fights. There's probably only 3 different types of events over a lot of different tracks, though. But obviously the board allows for a lot of extensions. There's roads going off the board, if you like a city that you can't go into. And obviously there are going to be new boards that are added, and I imagine everyone will come at a cost. So go in there knowing that. But the base game, I think, is like a 3/4 price game. It's not a full price AAA game. So perhaps you can justify that, if you like. But as far as a racing game, it's kind of loose in its handling. But again, these cars are so small, so I suppose you have to expect that. Has a big emphasis on drifting or whatever else. It's not a difficult game, although if you play on the hard setting, it's challenging. But it's a very fair game. There's no reason why anyone couldn't platinum this game. The time trials, they always have 2 times. One is very generous. The other one is semi-generous. Like, you don't have to have perfect laps by any stretch or whatever. The real catch of this game, though, is the number of little cars that you can get, the Hot Wheels. I think there's something in excess of already 200 available, and depending on which pack you buy, you might have 10 at the start, and you earn coins in game to unlock more packs. So there's like this blind box element, so you never know which car you're going to get next. And the detail in these cars is just phenomenal. Like, Meph, we're older. You're older as well. I'm not sure if you
Yep.
ever were into these sort of cars when you were a kid, but I
Yep.
was, and it's just like being a child again. I spent a good hour or 2 just looking at the collection I have and turning them around, and it's wonderful. They've really put in some time into that element. So far I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm probably in maybe 10 hours, 30% of the trophies. I think it's going to be around a 30-hour completion, depending on how long the grind takes for the blind boxes and things. But it's very doable game, I think, for everyone.
So is it
No one.
kind of like Gran Turismo 7, where you just, a key component of the gameplay is just admire the cars and not actually play?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny though, because like that's part of the reason why I play Forza Horizon because the car porn is so good.
Mm.
Like you're just constantly hard, and I'm not talking about the gear shift there either. And it's like this game is the same. Like I've always had this problem on PlayStation that none of the racing games look as good as the Forza games do on Xbox. And this was before the Series X. This was on X1 too and PS4 Pro, and they just never had a game. And I know you're going to go on about just sport, which whatever. I still don't think it does. And this is the first game that the cars, and I know it's on the PS5, so it's a better system, but the attention to detail, the cars look as good as they do in Forza Horizon, obviously on a mini level. And obviously you can't, the customization is a lot less than in the Forza series, but just actually having them and seeing them is on the same level.
Yeah, it looked really photorealistic on some of the gameplay that I saw of the
Yeah.
vehicles going around the tracks and like the plastic of the track and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is, and like the tracks are. There's enough variety, I think, in there as well. So it's good. I'm enjoying it. One that I don't know. This is a simulation game, so it's rare that I play these. But it was on the store, and I thought, look, no one's going to buy this game, so I better and give it a go. And it was called. I don't know if you've seen this one, Starling. I don't think it's on the Xbox. It's called Virtual Surfing.
No, I've not seen that one.
So the market has been devoid of simulation surfing games for some time. Not surprisingly, I suppose, but this has apparently been like kickstarted through Steam for years, and they needed money and they built it up slowly, and then it became a community project. So the community dictated how they developed it, and it's now available on console. And so you obviously have to get your head around the fact that it's a PS4 game. It's not up-res for PS5, and it is a simulation game. It really delves into the physics of surfing. It is a lot. Like I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. I don't know how you'd go if you'd never surfed before, because a lot of it is to do like the balance is really really easy, but a lot of the tricks and the positions really have to do the angle you hit the wave and the top. So I'm sure you can figure it out. But if you had some experience, I'm sure it would be a hell of a lot easier. It's actually got a pretty cool little career mode, and again, it's a simulation or whatever, and it's a lower budget game or whatever. For them to make, but it does move through sort of 7 locations around the world with various challenges, if you like, that do it. And it does it in sort of a competition style that you're out there for 2 minutes. The waves are continuous, so you choose which wave you want and what you're going to do on it or whatever. I thought it was going to be incredibly janky, and I was actually quite impressed. But I think for the price that it is, you'd really need to watch some footage before you dived into it. And again, if you had no interest in surfing, I'm not sure that the game would inspire you to start.
Well, sounds pretty
And
tubular.
then maybe
I've
yes,
I've not
I
played a
can tell
surfing
the
game.
thrilling.
I've not played a surfing game since probably Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer on PS1 or
Yes,
PS2. So that was God
yeah.
fucking ages ago. But
Well, there's
dude,
been nothing like.
is there like a
Yeah.
big wave like at the end of Point Break you can surf and hang 10 off of?
Well, no, their locations, like it's got Australia in there as well, Akira. It's got real locations around the world, but it's not a licensed game. So, like the beaches all look roughly the same, and the water looks roughly the same. So, yeah, I think for what it is, like it's a really interesting tech demo as a game, perhaps because the physics within the wave themselves is quite. Once you get in the barrel as well, it's quite phenomenal. It's not just like I just stand here and I won't fall off. Like you do have to adjust your positions and everything else. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of work gone into it, I think. But you have to temper your expectations with the fact they're not a AAA studio. So the money they
Mm.
had was relative or whatever. And then the last one, a little buyer beware. I jumped in on the survival series. There was a big draw card at the PlayStation show a couple of shows ago or whatever else. It's the Sugar Glider game. It's really phenomenal. It's got this David Attenborough style voice narrating to you, which just it tickles my fancy hugely. Hearing an old English voice as you play as the Sugar Bat, but the game is really really glitchy. You can fly off the side of the map for no reason, and you're just gone. I don't know where. Some of the checkpoints move around as well, and the quests are a little bit up and down. I'm not exactly sure what you're supposed to do a lot of the time. The game moves between very narrow linear to just like good luck figuring out the next section because we're not going to tell you what's happening at all. So I think once they patch it and fix it, it'll be exciting. But it does look really good on the PS5, and because there are so few games exclusive on that system at the moment, and will be going into the future as well. It's potentially something to look out for, I suppose.
Pretty crazy, a game looking good on the PS5. Who'd have thought? You know?
It's so funny, because I've been playing a little bit of PS5 lately, and so you get really used to the look of it. And going back to the PS4, it really is a bit jarring or whatever. But having played a bit of the PS5 and then coming back now, the last few days I'm playing the Xbox, and I know this people not believe this or whatever, but Judgment is a pretty average looking game or whatever. But my eyeballs styling, they open a little bit wider when I turn on the X, and I think it's just the quality. I think that's what it is. It just opens my eyes a little more.
If it's anything too like the X1, just that little sound bite that goes off when you turn the system on is just that little bit more satisfying as well. So yeah, I don't blame you.
No.
There's something about an Xbox that just stimulates you a little bit more.
And the fact you never have to buy anything either. It's wonderful, It's all included. So it's wonderful. Wonderful. I just won't check the credit card bill attached to the store anytime soon, I think. So let's jump over to their leaderboards. Of course, if you made it this far, you probably already know the Lootbros have leaderboards on the achievement and the PlayStation side. We'll zip through them so that we can move to the questions on the Xbox side. Here we go. We have Redbeard Rick with 1,090 points. His last achievement in Ruins in Undertale. So a great game, sir. Congratulations. I understand, Toby, he's got a new game. Did either of you see this? There's Del Tune or Del something? Yeah.
No, it doesn't sound familiar.
No, the only reason I noticed is that he's releasing it in chapters, and he put the first 2 chapters up for free, and I think the whole game is going to be free. So he maybe he made so much money he doesn't care about money anymore. I'm not sure, but I don't know if you know this guy, Vef, but he's a real anti-trophy and achievement hunter person. Like, yeah, he put troll achievements into his game intentionally,
Right.
and he's got no time for them. And he also put one of his big beefs is people not finishing games, and so it's a highly narrative game, his game. But he put all the achievements at the beginning because he's like, well, you fuckers are not going to play it anyway. So
right, fair enough.
And but yeah, very, very good games or whatever. Second, 1,035 points. The Alpha Seagull, Master of the Peak in Dragon Age Origins. It's another big RPG, sir. And then, oh my goodness, ImStylinOnYaBro, the man himself in third, 750. It's just like turning on the console, really, isn't it, Meph? 750. It's amazing the numbers go that low, but for a 7-day period.
Harsh.
For a 7-day period, come on. The roof is on fire. It should be on fire in Gears of War 2, which we talked about. Congratulations, sir.
And fuck if I know what it was for. I was just boosting online.
Just thinking, burn, motherfucker, burn. But anyway, no. Okay, let's move. Let's move over to the PlayStation boards. We have the banana himself, 1,549 trophies, playing some gobshite Japanese VN nobody can pronounce or cares. Big shout out to Resident Daryl, 413 trophies in a week. That's will get you divorced. You better be careful there. Super Agent in Agents of Mayhem. No accounting for taste. Wow. And then the pirate himself, Tricky Mick, 336. Wow, everyone's had a big week. It's crazy. Harness Your Power in Kena, Bridge of Spirits. It's another PlayStation exclusive, I believe.
And very short, too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think it's only like 8 to 10 hours.
I thought the hard mode in that's supposed to be very tough, though, the master mode or something.
I know a couple people that are playing it. I'll have to check with them and see what they think of it.
It's wonderful that PlayStation does have these games. That's two games we've talked about today that are exclusives. It's wonderful.
Sugar Glider one.
They're not free.
Yeah.
I mean, they're full price, and they're all broken and need patching, but they're still there. It's wonderful. Yeah. Okay, so let's move over. Let's move over to the questions that came in this week. I did put up that we would have 2 wonderful guests here on the Xbox side, so these questions apply to all of us. I think some more to you two definitely than to me. But we'll start off here, Meph, if you'd like, with this one first. It comes in from Joe, regular host Joe. What was your most enjoyable 100%, and what was the least enjoyable or the worst?
Wow. Well, I'll start with the worst, and because that's will never be erased from my mind. Nothing will ever be worse than it, and that game is called Spencer. I don't know if you have that on the PlayStation.
We do, I think, now.
Oh my god, that is just shocking. The less said about that, the better. It is just horrific. Nothing. There's maybe there's worse games, but there's nothing that will top that for me. Anyway, so that's the worst. Avoid at all costs, even if you want trophies or achievements. Just don't. Do yourself a favor. Question your life choices if you plan that. The best. Now that's an interesting one. The best completion. I suppose I have a couple. Like Adventure Pop will. There's probably a random game that people probably don't even know. It was a free game, like a free match 3 game, and it was very, very hard. But I managed to do it all legit without any of the microtransactions, and from what I know, not many people have done that. So that was a really tough one. Project Spark, because it's long. That was an exclusive, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was Microsoft made and fun and yeah. It's not even really a game, Project Spark. I don't know if you've ever come across that, CJ, but it's like a game editor, a game maker, kind of. You can make your own. It's kind of like a more updated Roblox, I suppose. You could make your own stories and download them, and had a whole heap of like customization with AI behaviors and pathways and all that kind of weird stuff. And that was like a 300-hour game. And probably one more I'll throw out was World of Tanks on the 360. I haven't done the X1 version yet, but there's no quick way to do that. It's thousands of matches and destroying tanks, and yeah, they're probably my most enjoyable because I actually had fun with them. And they're hard.
Yeah,
they're hard.
Yeah, I like that. And Stylin, best and worst?
For the best, I would say probably like I Am Bread and Surgeon Sim, just because they epitomize jank and horrendous gameplay, and I really thoroughly enjoy them. And I also, for another favorite, probably Train Sim World. Just I liked going in there knowing it was a huge grind, and pretty much every single one of the 187 trophies could bug out on you and make you have to restart. So it was nice to complete that and just be like, yeah, I fucking made you my bitch. So those were probably my favorite completions, and then my least favorite, probably Horizon Zero Dawn. Boring, predictable, hated it. They're probably the most overrated game, hands down, I've ever played.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no surprise. I mean, it's no surprise to you that that would probably be my same as well. And it's so funny this morning because Kalai messaged me saying she's stuck halfway through that game, and I was like, "Well, it's unfortunate you made it that far, really." But it like like I said to her, it's just like I thought this at the time. It's amazing. It is amazing that studio did not get sued because they ripped off Ubisoft with Assassins and they ripped off The Witcher 3. It's like a combination of those two games turned upside down, beaten to death, overcooked, and just shat all over. And that's what they released. And I mean, it was fitting that that came out early in the PlayStation cycle. Like, no, it was mid, wasn't it? PS4, I think that
26
game.
was it 2016, I think, that it
Yeah,
came out?
yeah,
Did you
and they were lining up a sequel to launch with the PS5, and look, even they've realized that they're in trouble, and they just keep pushing it back, and back and back and back, and it's going to come out later than Halo. I mean, at least Halo's going to come out. I mean, who knows if Horizon Zero Dawn will ever come out, the second one, and it's a travesty of a game or whatever else. And the other problem was it wasn't even functioning right. The HDR, which Sony was so excited about on the Pro, they didn't even work right. The whites were so white you couldn't bloody well see anything, and the darks was like being in Africa. You couldn't see anything there either, and it was just too much on both sides. And story wise, a travesty, but also, as a game, a travesty. But look, if you're enjoying it, someone out there, then you're on the right system. That's for sure, because you've got plenty
every
more of those sort of
character
things to come at you.
e- every character in that game was just incredibly bland, and then they made you go through that ultra hard playthrough. It For that one, I just got the DLC bow, and you can literally, every single fighting encounter, just kite the enemy. They have like a pre-programmed area they can roam. I'd kite them to the exterior of that, stand back with my Banuk power shot, and just blast them to bits, and just cakewalk on ultra hard. It was a joke. But did you get a chance to look at that one bracket that I linked you yesterday? The
I
greatest
haven't
game
gone.
of all time.
No, I'm saving that
Oh, you
actually. I
not?
haven't gone through that yet.
Yeah, well, like I said to you, it just brought some solace. Like, it's a legitimate list because Horizon wasn't even on there out of like 60 contenders. So that's got to bring
Good.
some legitimacy to it.
Yeah. I saw a lovely quote that Aoli, or whatever her name was in that game, she finally got a start in a decent game when they dropped her in as a playable character in Genshin Impact. But in true
Oh,
Sony
yeah.
fashion, she was only free for like a week, then you had to pay for her. So it's wonderful.
I think she's in Fortnite too,
Oh,
that
good.
Aloy.
Yeah, Aloy, sorry, not Aoli, of course. Same sort of thing.
Yeah.
And look, and then I suppose so that would be my worst. It's unsurprising. On the 100%, it's a game that came out last year. A game I've talked about before. A game that unfortunately, in the West at least, has not received much love. And it's these sort of games that I really want to see come to the Xbox. And 2 years ago, I would have thought that's never possible. Like a Vanillaware game, it's still a big stretch. There's still some way to go yet. But then I also thought it was impossible that we'd see Bandai Namco drop Scarlet Nexus for free on Game Pass the same day that AI, the Somnium Files came out as well. So I think we're getting a lot closer to that Japanese, love on the Xbox. And actually, I was going to ask you both. This is totally random, but on the Xbox, you have that weird little bell thing down the left-hand side that just sometimes, has messages for you that are nothing. And I had one there from Xbox said, "Would you mind doing this little survey or whatever?" And it was like, what do you think of the Xbox? What's your favorite thing or whatever else? There was only 3 questions, and what do you think they need to do, or what would you like to see? And so for that one, I said they need more Japanese games. The next day, I wake up and then AI Somnium and Scarlet Nexus are both on Game Pass, cementing
Wow.
a pub, a really good relationship. I think Bandai
They
Namco is a
must have
massive
listened to you.
no,
This
I
guy
think
wants Japanese games. Let's give them to him. Bang.
somebody will be in there and go, like, look at this fucker. We just dropped these massive games. What's his problem?
Yeah.
Guy won't
Yeah.
pay for anything. Phil, cut him off now. But no, my favorite there is 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. And if it does come to the Xbox and you have an interest in VNs and with a combination of VN and real-time strategy, it's amazing. It's wonderful 2.5D artwork, as you'd expect by the people that made Odin Sphere, similar art style or whatever else. It's a really awesome story, and it's a long VN too. It runs at about 50 hours if you're going to go through it all with the things and the movement and everything. And I really enjoyed it. It's so Japanesey, and it's also spliced with future science and space travel as well. It was really wonderful. So if you are on the Pony Box, there's no excuse, or the PC, no excuse not to check that game out. And hopefully we'll see it on the other side sometime soon. Question here from Matt. Have you ever played a game you were really enjoying, but trophy or achievement hunting in it made you stop liking it? This is a good question for you, Stylin, because almost every game you play would fall into that category for me. So, what about for you, though?
Yeah, I mean, to narrow that down to just one, can you skip me and come back? Because I've got quite a few to look through here and to come up with an answer.
I thought you were going to do that, actually. Okay, Meph, would you like to take a stab?
Yeah, could you skip me and come back? No, it's hard because of my play style. I only ever play really short games or games I enjoy. So I suppose it would have been in my early days when I played stuff a bit more for fun, I suppose. Well, see, I'm not really a completionist either, so I can just take whatever I get and walk away from a game quite comfortably. But I suppose, thinking about it would be, I can't name a game off the top of my head, but it would obviously be a game. I'm not usually into grinds that I don't enjoy, so something that is a massive grind that I couldn't be bothered doing. No, I can't think of something off the top of my head. Oh, no, actually, I can think of one. Apex Legends is the one I'm going to say, because I don't really tend to like online games, but Apex is just so smooth, so crisp. but the achievements in it are just stupid. Like there's no originality. It's just wins, damage. That's it. Like, it's just garbage. So from an achievement point of view, there's no reason to go back to it. I haven't finished it, but I will. I haven't finished it, but I will finish it. But it's a game that they just didn't care about the achievement list. They just didn't care. It's clear that it was just, we'll give them 10 achievements and it will just be related to kill damage and stuff. That's it. That's all they did. So for the quality of the game, for the amount of stuff in the game, they could have taken just a little bit more care. And it wouldn't hurt for some title updates either, but they won't.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Do you want a bit more time, Stylen? Should I go, or are you ready to throw it out?
I've come up with it. Probably
Good.
maybe Mafia 3 is a good candidate for that.
Oh, yes.
Because if you remember, I was enjoying that, and then just blew the Discord up with hatred and rage when I found out the trophies were bugged and you had to do everything in one sitting. And then the game just absolutely loved to crash on you for no reason and make you start over. So that was definitely a game where I was enjoying it, taking my time, and then it's like, oh, fuck this is torture.
Shout out to MZ's swinging lifeless body there. How many weekends did he try doing that?
Wasn't it like 2 or 3 weekends on the bounce?
That's right.
Just
And it got him each
guy.
time.
Someday.
Yeah. I like that. I don't know. For me, I don't know. I've played so many games that it's hard to remember even a fraction of them. But I suppose it would be in JRPGs because sometimes there's so much bullshit in those lists, and it's good because I decide I'm not going to play it early on, so it doesn't affect me. But the Nino Kuni 2, I really enjoyed that one, and I thought, Stylen, you'd understand this. That I thought, this actually looks like a respectable platinum, so people in the community will take me seriously for 3 seconds if I could do this one. It's not hard, but it's just long or whatever. And I got through it all, really enjoyed the game, enjoyed the base building, which I know a lot of people didn't in that style of game, but they had this dreadful real-time strategy skirmishes idea, which was clearly tacked on like a mobile phone type game on top that you didn't have to do for any other reason than a trophy, and there was like 60 of them. And in my typical way, I was like, I don't like this. This is bullshit. I'm just going to do it the easiest way. I'm not going to read all the things you have to read. There's pages of stuff and different options. I'm just going to do the easiest way and fuck all these off. And of course, you get to like level 15 and you just can't get past anymore. And you like got to read it all and you got to actually follow the videos because it got quite hard at the end. And I was just like, this is a part of the game that had nothing to do with the rest of the game, added no value personally to me. And I know many people, I think, thought that as well. And such a weird thing. I know JRPGs love to tack things onto them, but this had really no place in that game. So amazing game, but that was a real detraction. And part of the reason I think why I play so many games and not bother with the platinum, unlike Stylen or the completion, because I only do what I like to do in them and not this sort of bullshit anymore. I think. Then what do we got here? Oh, this is now this is a question I wanted to ask both of you. It's a slightly different wording of the same question. It's something that was thrown at me a few years ago when I did an interview on PSN Profiles, and at that time, much like now, I was playing a lot of garbage all the time. And someone asked me, and I'm very interested in your answer here, Meph, as well. But Stylen, I think maybe it's more obvious for you, but what is the best game that you've stopped playing to go and hunt achievements or trophies? So I'll let you think about that for a sec, man, because that's a hard question. But for Stylen, you just play sort of one game at a time, really, don't you? Or one or two. So that probably doesn't apply to you, does it? Like you don't stop a game to go and play another.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at just trying to have only 1 or 2 open games at a time and just hitting them hard until they're complete. So yeah, I really don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, but now, Meph, you play everything under the sun that goes for 5 minutes. You must have an answer here. What's the best game you
I
stopped
do.
playing to play a short
But
one?
Elite Dangerous is the answer.
Oh,
It's an amazing game, and even more so the fact that it's an amazing game. It is my kind of game. It is actually, it's not listed as simulation, but it is clearly a space sim, and it's just the sheer scope of the game is amazing, which as a sim lover, is my wet dream. But it is very, very long, and there is lots to do. And every now and again, I do jump back, but it's I can't justify the time because I could play it I could put it on right now after this recording this and play it all day and not pop an achievement. So to me, which is unfortunate, really, because I love the game and really gaming should be about what you enjoy. But I do enjoy getting achievements, so that is probably why it's that game. I don't know. Do you have Elite Dangerous on the PlayStation? I don't even know if you do.
Yep.
Yep. So if you know anything about that game, you'll know it has, well, at least on the Xbox side, it has a billion achievements. There's so many things to do. Yeah, and it's, I don't know. I don't even know how you'd explain it. I assume neither of you have played it, but it's, yeah, the scope, and there's no story. It's not a story. There's nothing there. It's just literally, we're going to drop you into space and away you go. Do whatever you want. And which generally means getting killed, really. But if you can get away from the people that are just trying to kill you for no reason, or you play on your own private server, which they have, it's just so much to do, and it's all beautiful, well made, and exciting. It's an exciting game, especially now there's aliens flying around. But yeah, my achievement hunting gets in the way of lots of games that I enjoy. Really, Sea of Thieves is another one. You know, anything that's long, because I don't play long. Dark Souls, they're not as long. I love them to death. It's my favorite game series of all time, the Dark Souls series. But I've got them all sitting at like end bosses, all three of them, all sitting at end bosses, and I could probably kill them if I spend a little bit of time relearning the mechanics properly. It's not like I've turned them off because they're hard. The first one I've turned off because as soon as I kill that boss, it's over. I've got the completion. So, you know, and they're brilliant games. I don't know if you've ever played them, CJ, but yeah, achievement hunting gets in the way.
No, I'm not sure that the word play is appropriate when you talk about my experience with Dark Souls. I've loaded into them, I suppose. But, you know, depends how liberal you use the word play, I suppose. But
true.
yeah, it's an interesting question though, because like it's an insane question to people that play, you know, as they like, I suppose. But it's still yeah, I don't know, because there's obviously value for us in the short games as well. I mean, we enjoy that as well, so it's a tough one, but yeah, it's yeah. It's funny you mentioned that never ending, because I think part of it is also you got to drag yourself out of games. Like I know a lot of people don't; they have their one game, and it's funny you mentioned that Elite Dangerous, because before we finished the old show, we had that ZZ Urban Spaceman. It's a wonderful stand-up dude from Melbourne. It's amazing knowledge that guy has in programming and everything, and he is a massive player of that game, and he really got into that. And I think Styling, after I'd spoken to him, I sent you a message and said, "Oh, look, here's your next 500-hour game or 1,000-hour game." And not sure if it interests you, Styling.
It has, and free on Game Pass, by the way, which is nice. But 225 achievements. I mean, that is going to be hard to resist.
It's
God, that looks like
a brilliant game.
Forever.
It's a brilliant game.
Yeah, I might have to give that a go sometime for sure.
Let's move on. In the interest of brevity here, Jared has written a novel, as he always does. One of his questions here is to do with the fact about picking games for the Patreon, and it's a really good point you make, Jared. It's a very long question, so please blame me for not reading it all. But I know they normally would, but then they don't have as much games to talk about because they don't play as much as we do. So you'll have to forgive us there on that. But it's a good point you make. It's funny you mentioned the Senran Kagura being a torture for the church boy Daryl. I mean, he's ultra conservative, ultra religious, or whatever. So I thought a titty anime pervy game was a great choice as well. And you're right, he probably never would have played that if you hadn't have picked it. And there is some value to be had in those games, as we both know, in FF7 or whatever. So it's interesting. It's just, I think sometimes people pick games to troll people, and the only thing I can probably say to that is that I, upped for 1 month or whatever to thank the guys for my time on the show, and I picked Tales of Arise for Joe because he's a JRPG lover, and I'm sure he'd get to that game anyway. So if that nudges him a bit quicker there. But I'm not sure if that was a good thing or not, because the only message I got back was "fuck you." So I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I thought that was a perfect pick for him in the style that he plays. So I suppose we'll hear more about that when he's back. But let's switch back to a question for all of us here. Next week sees Alan Wake come to the PlayStation. Who would have thought that would have happened? With Remedy or whatever else. It's a remaster, not a remake, I believe. The question here from Jared is, I didn't own an Xbox console when Alan Wake came out. Now it's finally coming to PlayStation. Why should I care? It's not free on PS Plus. Well, that's really a Sony problem, sir. That's not our concern. Is this worth my money and my time, and why? So I know you've played this, Meph. Is it as good as people rave about?
It is actually. I'm hoping I'm going to play it again. I played it obviously when it first came out, and like I said, I will get it and play it again. I'm hoping it holds up because I don't know exactly when it came out, but it's an oldish kind of game now. So, and they don't always hold up that well. But if you like a story-driven game with action, the combat's very light. That's not really the point of the game. It's there, and yeah, it's more just to get you through to the next part of the story, really. But it grabs you because you don't really know what's going on. So if you're kind of like a bit of a mystery, and it's and a bit of a I'm not going to try and spoil it because obviously PlayStation people probably haven't played it, but the whole game overall is open for interpretation. And I think that's pretty clear from the onset that you can infer whatever you want from what's going on, and you're not wrong because it doesn't. Yeah, the story is just enough that it leaves you wanting more all the time. You want to figure out, you want to get to the bottom of what's going on, of the character and of the town you're in, and the weird creatures you're fighting. You kind of you're trying to figure it out as you're playing, and the game is very good at not telling you, if that makes sense. It lets you decide for yourself, and in some ways you're not wrong. Like, you can't be wrong if it's your opinion on what's going on. And I think I assume the DLCs are coming with it.
Yeah, it's all packed.
So that kind of explained things a little bit more, like obviously what the developers were going for in the original, because the original game, as I said, a lot's going on and you're not really sure how to unpack it yourself. You make your own decisions. So yeah, it's as long as the game holds up now, it is definitely worth a play. I assume it's not going to release at like a AAA price. So generally remasters don't, so remakes don't. So I think, I don't know. Depends how many new releases are currently out on the PlayStation. If you've got something else to play, maybe you can go to the back of the list. But I would recommend it. For in its time, it was brilliant. That's all. But now, obviously,
yeah. No, I can echo that. I think it's worth picking up. It'll depend on whether you like these. It's loosely survival horror. The combat, I suppose, there isn't a lot of it in it, as you say.
Yeah.
But that's the style of gameplay in those sections. So if you hate that, you're not gonna like this. But perhaps, yeah, I think it's good, and I think a lot of people have played Control or whatever else, and they don't understand how this studio got to where they are. And I think it's a really great starting off point, because you play Control as your first game from Remedy, and you're like, wow, these people are just unbelievable. Like, where did this come from? This is so crazy. And then you go back into the overworld and you play Alan Wake, and you're like, oh, I see how they got there. Like, and it fills the gaps.
That's a good point, because I kind of forgot about Control there. If you liked Control, you'll probably like Alan Wake. Obviously, it doesn't have all the powers and the kind of weird stuff going on with your character, but it's a very similar style of game anyway. Like, your third person shooter. Alan Wake obviously has a lot of like light and dark elements, so there's that survival horror element tiny bit, but it's more story focused than Control is, and I think Control has a story going on that's keeps you going through the game, with your brother and stuff. But Alan Wake is even heavier on the story. So if you like story driven games, you will like Alan Wake, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Now, the next question is really for both of you, so we might just skip that for a moment till Stylen drops back in.
Yeah.
He's back. Okay, so we'll throw this one in. That was quick. This is from JT. Obviously, JT, massive player of every game under the sun, trying to complete everything. As
Good man.
Akoom warned us, that's not possible, but JT will prove him wrong. And he asks this appropriate question for both of you: any tips for getting game completions in long and grindy games? So, Stylen, I mean, that's all you play is long and grindy games. So, any tips for him to keep him on track? I suppose
You've got to be more into actually doing it as opposed to the idea of doing it, because it's all fine and well to think, "Ooh, I'll spend 700 hours on Train Sim," but you have to actually want to do it to be able to get that done. So, yeah, I guess my advice is don't do it as a half measure. You got to go balls deep, all in, or it ain't happening.
yeah. Meph, anything?
Obviously, my play style is a little bit different to Sultan's here, but I think you've got to do. For me, if I'm focusing on doing a longer game completion, I like to break it up into as small chunks as I can. So don't think, well, I'm just going to play this game non-stop for 2 weeks and get it done. I think that's how you get burnt out on the longer games quick. That's just me though. And I like to break it up with other games. So yeah, do a bit, come back, and just make that like not hugely long, but a longer goal in amongst your gaming. That's the way I would do it.
That really opens
You
a
know,
can of worms. Which sorry, go. Yeah, sorry.
for me, I'm definitely the opposite on that,
Yeah,
because like with with Gears of War, like I'm looking at these seriously boosting sessions, and most of them are for 2 hours, and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, I'm only going to be just getting warmed up. 2 hours is all we're going for. So for the month in November, for like the first 3 weeks, I think I'm gonna post, because it'll be more my style. I want to put a session 5 days a week for the first 3 weeks. Advertise for 2 hours, but if people are willing to go longer, then I'll be down for that. I like to literally hammer the shit out of it and get it done.
well, fair enough. If you have that mindset though, that can really work for you, can't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
for
But
sure, yeah.
obviously obviously I don't know who asked the question, but it seems like they kind of have trouble with the longer grinds, maybe. So that both advice could work. Depends on what you. Yeah. If you're hating the game though, but you still want to complete it, I would break it up. Definitely.
Yeah, little breaks here and there can help for sure. Do a quick, easy game for, a day, or do a game that'll maybe take you 15, 20 hours. Just break it up for a couple of days, even.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a real can of worms, that, because I think JT sits in the middle. I mean, he plays a lot of the longer games, more on the JRPG side, so it complicates again because there's narrative in there that makes it harder to play it over a long period of time. But it's so funny because this is my biggest hang up like with gamers, and I see how Stylen plays, and I'm like, it must be so good just to play one game, be totally immersed in that, and then you're finished and then move on to the next. But I'm a bit like you, Meph, in that I don't like a game I really like to finish either.
Yeah.
So his style doesn't work for me in the fact that I get closer and closer to the end quicker, and the game doesn't sit with me for a few years. But then on the other side, I have games open from 2 years ago. I keep a notebook that I'm still working on, and in little bits. And I seem to have this weird pattern of like a big open world game. I'll get it at release. I'll probably play it in the first month. I might play it for 10 hours if I'm lucky. Then I won't touch it for 6 months. And then I'll put 40 hours in a week for the next 2 weeks and finish it 80 hours in 2 weeks. And it's so weird how it comes at you. I think it's different for everyone, I suppose, but it's just how it is. Rick here has asked, are we aware, now I don't know if you are, Meph, or not, but are you aware of any double dippers that are going hard on both systems, meaning PlayStation and Xbox? I see that you're over 100k gamer score already this month. We talked about that with the competition, and I bet you're on plenty of plats as well. Yes. So also, how soon do you think? Also, how soon do you think you'll have 1 million gamer score? So we'll take that out of the question. Look, you could have a million gamer score in a year easily. Now, I'm sure Meph would agree if you wanted to, if that's all you wanted to do. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
fully committed, you could definitely do it in under a year.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I think it'll take 2, so I don't think it'll be depending on what happens, maybe till towards the end of next year. But look, it's only another 2 competitions away, so who knows? We'll see. But that's a more interesting question. Are you aware of any double dippers? Like, I'm not really aware. There doesn't seem to be any really high ranked Xbox gamers that are also high ranked PlayStation gamers. I don't think.
No. The only one I know of is kind of you, CJ, really. Like, you're the only one that kind of does both that I know, anyway.
Well, there was that big sexy one guy who was
Ugh.
number one in Australia for I know for a long time, 7 years he told me, and then he left because you were too slow. And he came over to
Oh,
the PlayStation and got a million. The first gamer I think on PlayStation to get a million PlayStation points and a million on Xbox or something, according to him. And I think he's ranked 10th or something in Australia now. I think he's totally burnt out and plays COD all day, which is awesome if he's enjoying that. But
mm.
I think he's probably the only one. And I don't know how he played on Xbox, but I watched him on PlayStation and he did it in about a year. He played really hardcore. So he obviously is pretty hardcore gamer when he wants to.
I don't know. I don't know the guy, but I heard it was a lot more than one guy. That's all I'll
Oh,
say.
one of those situations. There you
Yeah.
go. So there's a
Anyway,
couple of double dippers involved there, maybe.
doesn't say a team.
Yeah, that could be. But yeah, no, it is. I mean, the only thing I can think of is Style and is Aerith. And she said to me when we're doing that competition, if I didn't play PlayStation, I'd have like a million gamer score by now or something because she's got, split across both. And yet I always thought she was an Xbox gamer, but I think, as you told me, she's more of a PlayStation gamer. And she's probably the only semi high on both systems that I know of, I suppose, that plays fairly evenly across both.
Yeah, and she kind of only goes back for the competitions, really. Otherwise,
Yeah.
doesn't really use the Xbox for much outside of watching NASCAR on
Yes.
the
Yeah.
applications and whatnot. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
really know any other double dippers, really. It's either just one side of the fence or the other. I
That's
guess
right.
2 tags is too much for some people to manage.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember we had this conversation in the chat there with Rogue in that competition, and I said I really love playing these short games, multiple times. Obviously, if I'm on the PlayStation and then doing them again on the X, and he's like, "That's fucking insane. I couldn't think of anything worse."
Mm,
I think there's a lot of truth in that as
yeah.
well. So some questions here from Shadowless Edge, the host,
Ooh.
as we said today as well. Here we go. CJ, this is appropriate for you too, Beth. CJ, why haven't you overtaken Neo yet? Getting pretty slack, if you ask me. We'll take that as a comment, I think, rather than a question.
Mm.
Now, a podcast appearance, and this is for you too, so I know he's lining you up, so I'm looking forward to hearing you on this show soon, if you're open to it. That's for you, Meph.
Oh, sorry.
Mm.
Yeah, they do want me to go back on, they
Good.
said. But he did say when I passed Neo, so.
Oh,
But
okay.
then Neo decided to score, so we'll see. We'll see
Well,
when they get me back on. I'm keen to go back on.
what I like is they haven't offered me to come on yet. He asked the question in the thing as a question, but he never
Right,
offered. And then he offered like the other day. So
right.
I think he was
There you go.
covering his bases. But
Yeah.
I'm told I'm a bit of a loose cannon on shows. So we'll see.
Are you?
Okay, on Xbox shows,
Hmm.
against New Zealand as I can be. So, why not? And this alludes to what you said as well. Why not? And this is a good one for you, Styling, I suppose. Why not just stick to one console?
Because I hate the UI of the PS5, and there was just nothing
Oh,
to play. So I thought, why not go where most of the niche games are? I want to play like Lawn Mowing Simulator, Microsoft Flight Sim, Surgeon Sim 2, I Am Fish, and they're all day and date too on Game Pass, by the way. So get it for
yeah,
free. And some people will
yeah,
say Game
yeah.
Pass costs money, but it gets buried on the bank statement, and you don't really notice that $15. So it's definitely
No.
free.
Yeah, that's right. It definitely is. It's an interesting question because obviously PlayStation for both of us, Styling, was our primary console in the last generation. It's definitely a secondary console for both of us now, and I think it's so weird because in the last generation this wouldn't have even been a discussion. you played PlayStation, maybe you would have had an Xbox to play Forza or some random stuff, but you wouldn't have had it as a primary. And it's so wonderful to think that, we're both high volume PlayStation gamers over the last generation. We've both seen the value in the Xbox, and so much so that it's become our primary system. And it's not even a question anymore about whether you would have an Xbox as a PlayStation gamer. I mean, and on a cost benefit with that Game Pass, there's no question. But with the exclusives that are coming as well, with the improved performance over the PS5, there's really no question. So I think that's wonderful. So I think it's very rich coming from an Xbox gamer that has all this. They're in the golden age, perhaps, of Xbox now, to say, well, why not just stick with your one shitty pony console and leave us alone? But for Meph, I suppose, is it what's the reason you only hunt on one? Is it time, or is it you just don't want to be distracted, or what's the?
I suppose I could come up with some detailed answer about how Sony's rubbish, but really, that's not true. I'm not like that. It's I just prefer the Xbox. I prefer the gamer score system. I prefer the controller of the Xbox. It's just all those little things that push me to the Xbox, and because of my position on the leaderboards and being number one in Australia, and hopefully Oceania in the near future, I don't really have time to go and play games I've played once another 7 times on the PlayStation, if that makes sense. I don't have anything against the trophy system, but I just prefer the gamer score system.
Mm.
You know what, though,
That's
Meph?
valid.
I kind of do too, really.
Yep.
And it's not even like it's that much different, because, either system I'm going for a completion, but I don't know, there's
Yeah.
just something like, yeah, there's the platinum, and some games don't have them, but I mean, every game ultimately has that maximum apex of gamer score you can get. And yeah, the controller too is good. I mean, all kayfabe aside, I pick up the DualSense and it just feels freaking weird. I think the Xbox controller feels a lot better in my hands after having it the last couple months.
Yeah.
Mm. That's fair enough. So yeah, I don't know. Each their own, I suppose. So I mean, why haven't you moved across to the PlayStation, Traveler's Edge? Perhaps we'll ask you that one at some point in time. I mean, you have such a small gamer score total. You're not leaving anything behind. So I'm not sure why. But and then look, our final questions for today, and I know we've touched a notch over 2 hours, which is an impressive piece of stamina. In fact, the program seems to think we've gone for 3 hours, so it's really feeling it, obviously. But a touch over 2 hours, so don't panic, listeners. Resident Daryl here, the host, the owner, the messiah of the Loot Brothers, I suppose. That's a fitting term, isn't it? He leaves us with some questions here. Of interest, I suppose. They have this weird relationship with the Trophy Horse styling. This other show, it's incestuous. I don't know what it is. So we're going to ignore those questions because I'm going to let them deal with those. But the final question he has, it's a good question, I think, for us to delve into at the end of this episode. Is Microsoft ever going to make a good game on their own? Can they even do it? With Phil paying Crystal Dynamics to come in and save them on their quadruple A game, Perfect Dark, do we still have any confidence that they can manage their own studios? Of course, off the back of Microsoft and Phil saying that they brought in Crystal Dynamics, in a supporting role for this game. Who wants to attack?
I can.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, you go. You go.
Well, just look at the comparison of Forza Horizon 5 compared to Gran Turismo 7. Just enough said.
What do you think, Meph?
I don't have a lot of confidence at the moment, but it only takes a couple of good games and that changes very quickly, doesn't it? So it's been so. See, I don't really care for exclusives. I don't play the Xbox for exclusives, and in a perfect world, I don't think there should be any exclusives. But that's just my opinion. So, but in answer to the question, we haven't had any very decent exclusives for a while now. So my confidence isn't there. But apparently they're, making a shitload of games, so we'll see in the future. So something there has to be good, doesn't it? Like they're making so many, they'll hit the target on one of them at least. But obviously that's not enough for most people. But I think right now the confidence is low, and that way I can't be let down if my confidence is low. Can it? Can't be let down if you're already at the bottom.
You
Well,
fling
I
enough
still
shit at the
was
wall,
with The
something
Last of
gets
Us Part 2.
yeah,
But if
yeah.
I mean, if the game is bad that comes out with Xbox, like Game Pass, at least it was free. You don't take that
Yes,
huge hit on your wallet, so
that's very true.
that's always a plus.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, to be fair, I think you perhaps have this wrong, Resident Daryl. I mean, Phil is just beyond all our comprehensions, as he's shown styling to us, every week. He is the real messiah of gaming at the moment. And I think what he's done here is he's thrown a bone here to Crystal Dynamics, who are, a respected studio that are in a lot of trouble. I mean, their last game, Marvel Avengers, just shit the bed. I mean, I hear rumors Square didn't even bother paying them for that game or something. It was so bad. And, they're striving a bit of an outrider situation, I suppose. But, I think Phil here said, well, look, we can help you. We can make you better. We can help you find your way. Come and work with our quadruple A studio. And I think that's what's happened here. I think it's a partnership, which will probably lead to an acquisition for Microsoft, because there are a couple of studios they don't own yet, like Square. But the time is coming, and I think you've got this around the wrong way. I think at the moment, if you're holding out, if you're putting all your eggs in your basket and hoping that Microsoft exclusives are going to fail, then I think you're in trouble, because I think we are in the golden age of gaming, and we finally have a personality styling that's delivering on what he promises.
Yeah, and there's honesty in it. And did you see that article on True Achievements with an interview with Phil? It
I
really
have not.
sucks. Well, believe me, it's annoying.
Oh,
He said that the scarcity of the Series X is going to continue into 2022. Is that what I want to hear? No, but at least he's telling you the truth and being honest, unlike Jim Ryan when he's like, oh no, we believe in generations, and then they poured everything to PS4, and then it's going to be underwhelming on PS5. I mean,
yeah.
Meph said earlier the Kiwis are dishonest, so I don't know, maybe Jim Ryan's from New Zealand, but I think his accent might have fooled me.
Yeah, a lot of the Americans do use New Zealand as a bolt hole, so it wouldn't surprise me there at all. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of honesty. I think you're right there. I think, to be honest with you, I think there should be a little fear in the Sony community with everything that's happened, but also with the fact that their solution to not being able to produce consoles is to modify their console so that they can keep producing it. And it sounds like the modifications aren't perhaps as honest and truthful as the original system was. So I think we're in for some interesting times ahead with that company.
The one studio, or publisher at least, that would be great for Microsoft to acquire?
Mm-hmm.
It would be Radalaka, because then there'd be unequivocally, there'd really be no argument. There would be nothing to play on PS5. What would people do without their 7 different stacks?
Could you imagine the uptake of Game Pass if Radalaika became an exclusive day one studio with Xbox? Every game on Game Pass day one.
That's how they get to the 500 million profitability mark.
That's right.
I'm telling you.
That's right. Yeah. That'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? I love it. That seems like a perfect note to finish on. So look, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Part of the reason I podcast is not, I don't know, is not for the randomness of talking to games. I make a joke there. It's to talk to people that I really enjoy talking to, that are really immersed in gaming as much as I am. And it's like we're sharing and trading stories as opposed to just reading reviews of games, because we've all been there and we're doing it or whatever. So I do appreciate you giving up the time today, both of you, coming on. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.